Hello, this is Miss Carla again with another continued reading of Love, Sugar, Magic, A Dash of Trouble by Anna Mariano. And this is with permission from HarperCollins, so thank you for that. Again, this is one of the nominees for the grade level 3 through 5 for the Rhode Island Latino Books Month Award for 2020. I didn't show this last time. Oh, yeah, I believe that's backwards. I do promise to look up how to flip the video around one day. One of my colleagues, Mr. Garrett, made a very nice little tutorial on how to do it. I just haven't read that part yet. But I'll get there. So this is one of the nominees, and if we read at least 3 of the books in our preferred age grade category, then we can vote before the end of May. I also wanted to mention, I can put a little sign up, don't forget that March is Women's History Month. And I have my little sign here. It says, Girls with Dreams Become Women with Vision. And it's got some famous ladies on here that you might recognize. Also, this book that we're reading is by a female author. So we're on theme in 2 ways, which is lovely. I am doing this on Facebook, but I want also to let you all know that the youth services librarians and specialists have decided to do our live streams on YouTube starting next week. So we're going to stream from YouTube and then link those videos to Facebook, so you'll still be able to see them, and you'll still see that we're doing them. We're going to put the events up on Facebook, but the streaming will be through YouTube. So look up Providence Community Library on YouTube and subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications button so that you are alerted every time that we go live. I believe that's everything I wanted to say. So let's go ahead and start Love, Sugar, Magic, A Dash of Trouble. Chapter 4, which is called Sugar and Stomping. Sneaking out of the busy bakery proved much harder than sneaking into the empty one. Leo found her opportunity after 2 hours scrunched in the cabinet, sneezy and nervous. Hey! Those are my cats. Oliver and Charlie, their brother and sister. They're fine. She darted out the back door while her family crowded in the front of the store to perfect the window display. She snuck back down Main Street and hid in the bushes outside school until she could slip into the bus line. Leo! Caroline found her in their seat at the back of the bus. What happened? Tell me everything. She scooted into the seat and whispered, I told Miss Wood you ate 14 cookies and had to use the bathroom. She was so busy and stressed out that she just nodded. Caroline's cheeks flushed pink as she held out an orange plastic bag filled with fun-sized candies. I grabbed some extra for you. Can't go home without candy from the Halloween party. Thanks. Leo took the bag. She wanted to tell Caroline what she had seen in the bakery, but she didn't know where to begin. She didn't even know what she had seen. I didn't get caught by Mama or my sisters or Aunt. That's good. Caroline held out a hand for Leo to high-five. Leo's hand stayed limp at her side. You okay? Does your family lie to you? Caroline didn't answer right away. My dad tries to be honest, but I think he pretends like everything is okay sometimes. He hides stuff if he thinks it'll be hard for me, like when... She trailed off. Leo felt guilty. Her problem wasn't nearly as big as Caroline's mom. Dying. It's just, I found out something I'm not supposed to know. Caroline raised her eyebrows. Her hazel eyes worried. You should be honest with them, she said. They love you. She shrugged, then smiled. I'll bet Isabel would know what to do. Caroline was right. Maybe she should talk to Isabel. Or maybe not. But they think I'm a baby. So tell them you're not a baby. The bus brakes squealed as they reached the first stops. Sorry. Caroline stood up and pulled on her backpack. I have to go, but you can tell me more about it tomorrow, okay? One side of her mouth stretched into a smile. I'll see you at the festival, Leo. Bye. Leo watched Caroline exit the bus. Even though it was nice to talk to her friend, she was relieved to stare out the blurry window for the rest of the ride home. She arrived to a silent house with a scribbled note from Daddy on the fridge promising to be back soon. Helping with festival things, the note read. Festival things. Leo crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Then she stomped down the hall and into her room, her throat tight. She dropped her backpack on the floor and flopped backward onto the bed, careful of her face paint. She lay with her confused thoughts and grumbling stomach, she had missed lunch, trying to make sense of the bread, the candles, the ribbon, the knife, the magic. She took the sack of candy that Caroline had given her and unwrapped every single piece, shoving it into her mouth and eating it without thinking, without tasting any of it, even the junior mints. She could feel the stickiness of the chocolate mixing with the dried green paint on her face, and the whole thing made her stomach lurch. She stood up, her arms and legs full of frustration, and slammed her door so hard it bounced back open. This, too, annoyed Leo. Wow, Marisol poked her head into the room from the hallway. You're awfully violent today, Cucaracha. What happened? The parade got rained out? The costume contest didn't go your way? Leo was definitely not scared, not even the tiniest bit, but she was startled when her sister appeared. What are you doing here? Marisol slumped onto the ground by the bed and pulled a bottle of nail polish out of her pocket. Mama sent me to check on you. Her smile twisted into a smirk as she coated the nails of her left hand in bright metallic purple, and to get me out of everyone's hair. Leo fumed. I thought the bakery was super busy today. Marisol blew on her nails and switched hands. It is. That's why they didn't want me around. Best way to get out of work on a busy day is to break a few spice jars and drop a tray of bolillos. Leo didn't know if Marisol was joking or not, and she didn't like not knowing. Marisol, she said, her voice small, were you really working in the bakery today? Marisol finished painting her nails, blew on them, and slipped the bottle back into her pocket. She held out her hands, tilted them back and forth, and then reached into another pocket and produced another bottle of dark silver polish. Of course, what else would we be doing? What else do we ever do? She shook and uncapped the bottle and added polka dots to her left-hand nails. Leo took a deep breath, feeling her frustration pound in her head. Where do you get all that new makeup from, anyway? You don't even get an allowance. She wanted Marisol to get mad or embarrassed and yell back. She wanted a good fight. Instead, Marisol closed the nail polish and gave Leo a crooked smile. What time do you want to go trick-or-treating? Mama told me to ask you when she should get home. Leo didn't care if her family stayed at the bakery all night. I don't want to go trick-or-treating today, she snapped. I'm sick. She threw herself onto her bed. Too much chocolate today, huh? Marisol shrugged, tucked the nail polish back into her pocket, and stood up. Okay, I'll tell her. Feel better, Cucaracha. I'll hand out extra candy for you. Leo's rage faded away as she snuggled under her orange-striped blanket that night. Daddy had brought her ginger ale, and Mama had felt her forehead for a temperature. Isabel had sat next to her and urged her to at least walk up and down the block, and Alma and Belen had tried to tempt her out of bed with handfuls of chocolate. Even Marisol stopped by Leo's room, dressed as an evil queen in silver and purple, to ask if she was feeling better. But Leo wasn't better. What was everyone hiding? And why was Leo the only one left out? An angry voice whispered in her head, You're too little. You wouldn't be serious enough. Besides, you wouldn't understand it anyway. It was all in Spanish. Leo scowled at the wall, at her Wizard of Oz poster, and at the imaginary voice. She rolled over in bed so that her other cheek pressed into the pillow. Maybe her family had been doing something religious, like First Holy Communion. Leo had envied each of her older sisters when they had reached second grade and got to walk with their arms uncrossed to the front of the church every week, eat the communion wafer, and sip the wine. But eventually Leo turned 7 and got her very own white dress and party, and there was nothing to be jealous of anymore. First Communion had never been a secret, though. Through the tiny window above her dollhouse, Leo could see the moving lights of the interstate beyond the edge of town and the still lights of the stars, flickering like the candles on the bakery table. Leo loved Rose Hill, but she knew it was an in-between sort of place. The cars on the interstate only stopped in her tiny town while zooming from their last place to their next. Rose Hill wasn't important enough or interesting enough to compete with Corpus Christi or Austin. Rose Hill might seem perfect to Leo, but in a state as big as Texas, little things got overlooked, forgotten. Leo fell asleep staring at the stars. Chapter 5. The Day of the Dead. In the morning, the Logroño house spun and hummed like an electric mixer. "Wake up, Leonora!" Daddy called from the hallway, sing-songing the syllables of Leo's name. "I hope you're feeling better because I promised your mama I'd have you all up and out by 8 o'clock. Leo jumped out of bed as the Day of the Dead festival beckoned. It was like waking up on your birthday. Tired didn't stand a chance against excited. Even her anger from the night before had vanished with the bright morning sky. Mama must have been up early. At the foot of Leo's bed, her black skeleton t-shirt sat next to her colorful striped skirt. Leo hopped out of bed, changed out of her pajamas, and skipped toward the bathroom to brush her teeth. The phone blared and the bathroom was full. "Hello?" Daddy answered the phone. "Yes, of course. Leo, can you grab Mama's and my aprons from the bedside table? We need to bring them with us." Mama and Tia Paloma had been on Main Street for hours already. Leo swished the edges of her skirt, then ran to Mama and Daddy's bedroom across the hall, where she found the skeleton-decorated aprons, not on the bedside table, but hanging over the closet door. She then bounced down, back to the bathroom, where Marisol and the twins fought for mirror space. "Will you do my makeup next?" Leo watched Marisol draw a long black smile across her white painted cheeks. One of Leo's favorite parts of Dia de los Muertos was seeing all the colorful skulls on drawings, candy, and faces. As the best artist in the family, Marisol painted Leo's face every year. "Do it in the kitchen," Belen said. "We've been waiting." "Hold your horses, all of you," Marisol grumbled. "I got up early on purpose." "Here, let me braid your hair first." Isabel put a hand on Leo's shoulder and pulled her away from the crowded bathroom. In the kitchen, Daddy answered another phone call and added a silver serving platter to the table's growing pile of things Mama needed. Leo added the aprons next to several folded plastic tablecloths and the good muffin tin. Isabel sat Leo down on the table, grabbed a brush from the counter, and pulled out Leo's ponytail. She smoothed down the frizz at the top of Leo's head. "Are you feeling better today?" Leo felt energized, her fingers and toes wiggly with purpose. She didn't want to cry or pout anymore. She wanted answers. "I feel fine," Leo said. "I can't wait to leave already." She didn't tell Isabel that what she was most excited for was the chance to search the bakery for clues. After Isabel dragged the comb through Leo's hair and braided it into pigtails with bright green ribbons running through them, and after Marisol painted Leo's face into a skeleton mask with curly cues where her smile ended and flowers around her eyes, and after Mama called 5 more times, they finally left. Daddy and Isabel sat in the front seats of the old pickup, while Marisol and Leo sat on the tiny cushion seats behind them. The twins, who were the last ones out, after intricately decorating each other's faces in blue and pink face paint, sat in the back of the truck, which Mama would have hated. "Are you ready?" Daddy called. "We've got a long drive." "It wouldn't be so long if you didn't take the scenic route," Alma called back, knocking on the window. "I'm not driving on the highway with you two back there. Don't worry. If we do a lot of business today, maybe by this time next year we'll be walking to the bakery from our brand new house. Hold tight, everyone." The truck rolled out of the driveway with a grumble and a lurch, and a couple of joyous screeches from the twins. Main Street had looked nice the day before, quiet and decorated, but today it was transformed. It seemed most of Rose Hill was crammed into the 2 blocks between Amor y Azúcar Bakery and Miss Flores' taqueria, some dressed in elaborate skeleton costumes complete with flowers and ruffled clothing, some in their Halloween costumes, and some in regular clothes. Yesenia Flores, a girl from Marisol's art class, sat outside the restaurant at a table with a long line in front of it, painting skeleton faces onto the kids and adults who had come unprepared. Ms. Flores sold breakfast tacos on the sidewalk, and Daddy bought Leo one of the tinfoil bundles filled with scrambled egg and potato wrapped in a fresh tortilla. Leo could smell tamales cooking inside the restaurant. Amor y Azúcar had its own outdoor booth, covered with sugar skulls and pastries and paper flowers. Mama passed out cookies and rolls at the booth in full skeleton face paint, while Tia Paloma worked inside the bakery, serving customers with larger orders. Between the restaurants and the bakery, more stalls offered shiny skeleton trinkets, aguas frescas, and other drinks, snacks, and fairground games. "There are my beautiful girls," Mama smiled when they reached the booth, her white face paint cracking around her cheeks. "Happy festival, everyone." "I'll put some more conchas in the oven." Isabel eyed the empty spaces in the display table. "And maybe more cookies?" "Thank you, mija," Mama laughed. "Oh, good, the aprons." Daddy slipped his over his head, displaying the neon skeleton printed on the front. Mama put her apron on over her colorful ruffled dress and ran her hands down the front, leaving little streaks of flour. "Perfect," she sighed, kissing Daddy's cheek and reaching to tie the laces around his waist. Leo helped Mama and Daddy lift trays, while Alma and Belen spread out orange tablecloth over the booth. Music and laughter echoed down the crowded street, and the smell of sweet bread filled her nose. The Dia de los Muertos festival had started, and Leo grinned as wide as a sugar skull. "Marisol, I think Tia Paloma could use help with the customers inside," Mama suggested. Marisol, her fingers tapping at her phone, walked to the bakery without looking up. "I'm good with customers." Leo turned to follow Marisol. "No, Hita, stay here a minute," Mama said. "Alma, Belen, you're running the tent like we talked about. It's over behind the altars. Ask me or Tia Paloma if you have any questions, okay? And tell us if you need a break." Leo watched her twin sisters nod and poke each other and giggle like third graders who had just been given hall monitor duty for the first time. For as long as Leo could remember, Tia Paloma had been in charge of the special tent, set up in the back corner of the empty lot in the middle of the block, with an old hand-painted banner that simply read, "Messages, mensajes, $10. Letting Alma and Belen run the tent made no sense. Mama had always said not to bother Tia Paloma when she worked there, and it should be Mama or Isabel who took over, not the almost youngest and giggliest sisters. Leo tugged at a strand of hair that was stuck to her cheek. She felt the sour feeling from last night rise up in her stomach. "I'll help you." She skipped to catch up with Alma and Belen, but Daddy caught her before she could take more than a few steps, and Mama shook her head. "Go enjoy the festival, Hita. You don't need to spend the day working." "But I want to help. Alma and Belen are helping." Mama and Daddy glanced at each other, then busied themselves arranging the table. "Why do they get to help?" Leo pressed. "You could tell me how to take the messages, and I could do it." Mama placed her hand on Leo's forehead. "How are you feeling? I think you'd better take it easy today, Hita." Mama raised her eyebrows. "So you don't get sick again." "But I'm not a baby." Leo wanted to scream, but didn't, because there was no better way to sound like a great big whiny baby. "Cheer up, Leonora." Daddy poked the corner of Leo's mouth. "Put on a happy face. It's a celebration." Stomping away, Leo crashed into the corner of the not very sturdy folding table. Mama gasped as several of the sugar-coated orejas fell to the ground. The ear-shaped pastries were quickly covered in dirt, but Leo didn't turn around. She tossed the uneaten half of her breakfast taco into a plastic trash can and pushed her way through the crowd. The morning had started off cool and bright, but the clear sky offered little shade, and Leo started to feel drops of sweat drip down her face. Summer in Texas hung around like a stray cat, disappearing for a few days at a time, only to show up again when you thought it was gone for good. Leo shuffled past the long table of ofrendas, pretending to admire the altars decorated with flower petals, pictures, candles, and food. Behind the candles, a hunched woman approached Alma and Belen's tent. Leo craned her neck and recognized one of the old women who used to gossip with Abuela after Mass. Leo's curiosity rose. If no one was going to tell her anything, her only option was to snoop, and she would start with the twins. Leo ducked and tugged at her shoelace, as if tying it, then ran in a crouch behind the table and across the parking lot until she was safely hidden in the back of the tent. A quick peek made sure that no one had watched her run. Leo didn't think anyone but Mama would stop her from hanging around the tent, but she didn't want to take any chances either. Oddly, a banner was draped along the side, too, even though the back of the tent faced a plain brick wall. The banner on the back had no price, but in addition to promising messages, it also read, "Welcome, bienvenidos." Strange. Leo had missed the days of setup this year, but she had been with Daddy last year when all the tables and booths went up. She knew that under the beige plastic canvas of this tent stood a house-shaped skeleton of metal poles, and she knew that the canvas laced together at each corner, which meant that if she inspected the nearest corner, it would be easy to find a spot where the lacing was loose, where she could peek inside. Leo peeked. The visitor was Mrs. Gomez, a short old lady with cropped gray hair and children who had all moved to New York or Chicago or some other big faraway city to be doctors and lawyers. Leo remembered seeing pictures of Mrs. Gomez's youngest daughter when she had gone with Mama to bring a special box of bread and cookies over after Mr. Gomez had died from a heart attack 2 summers ago. Leo leaned to get a view beyond the entrance flap. The space glowed brightly from a skeletal standing lamp that Leo recognized from Tia Paloma's living room. Alma and Belen sat at a little square folding table on one side. Next to their table was one of the rolling metal shelves from the bakery, full of pan de muerto. The warm plastic smelled musty, but the inside of the tent made Leo's nose tingle in a familiar way. Mrs. Gomez walked to the table and sat on the stool Belen nodded at. Leo couldn't see the old woman's face, but she saw the wrinkled hands tremble as Mrs. Gomez fumbled through her purse for her wallet. Alma and Belen smiled encouragingly from their side of the table, but their smiles were less comforting than usual, decorated as they were with skull paint and flowers. Mrs. Gomez handed Alma a folded bill, and Belen struck a match to light the thick white candle in the center of the table. The lamp went dark, just like the lights in the bakery the day before. Leo struggled to adjust her eyes, but Mrs. Gomez leaned forward on her stool in the flickering light, blocking Alma's face and most of Belen's body, except for the arm that reached to the shelf for a piece of bread. Leo grew tired of looking through cracks and only seeing tiny pieces of what happened. She tugged at the laces of the tent until she had made a big enough hole to stick her head all the way inside, trusting the darkness of the corners to keep her hidden. Belen put the pan de muerto on the table next to the candle. Belen and Alma shared one of their looks, and after a slight pause, Alma nodded and broke the bread in half, offering one piece to Mrs. Gomez. Belen held her right hand over the flame of the candle and held Alma's hand with her left. The dark made the shadows of their skeletal face paint look like real holes and hollows where their eyes and noses should have been. Even though most of her body was still outside in the sun, Leo shivered. Alma nodded again. Both she and Mrs. Gomez raised their piece of bread to their mouths. They bit, chewed, and swallowed. In the space between Leo's breaths, Alma's eyes turned bright white, like 2 full moons shining out of their dark pits. Yama. Belen's fingers still hovered over the candle flame, which danced wildly as though it were being blown by a strong wind. Vicente. Mrs. Gomez's voice was soft. Vicente Gomez. The flame stopped flickering. The spicy smell grew strong. Alma began to shake. Belen spoke again, but it wasn't her voice that came out. It was a man's voice, and it came out of Belen's throat. Hortensia, ¿Cómo estás, mi amor? Mrs. Gomez's shoulders bounced as she spoke in soft, laughing Spanish, and Belen answered with the deep voice. Alma didn't move, didn't speak, just sat with her eyes shining and her body trembling, looking like a jammed machine. This was magic. Her sisters were doing magic. Magia. Even though she had heard the word yesterday, it sounded out of place in Leo's head. She tested it like a loose tooth. The tent was for practicing magic. The bakery was magic. Leo was seeing and hearing and smelling magic right now. Leo stared at the back of Mrs. Gomez's pale blue blazer for a few more seconds, waiting for her thoughts to make any kind of sense. When that didn't work, she pulled her head out of the tent, turned around, and ran as quickly and quietly as she could toward the bakery. Chapter 6. Recipe Books. Leo ran straight past Mama and Daddy at their booth and barged through the line of people inside the bakery. Isabel and Tia Paloma bustled behind the front counter, taking orders and swiping credit cards and complimenting guests on their costumes, switching easily between English and Spanish. Marisol leaned in a corner behind the display case, tapping at her phone. "What's up, cucaracha? Why aren't you playing with your friends?" Leo stomped past her sister, barely hearing the question over her own racing heart. "Mama said I could help," Leo lied to Isabel. "If you're busy here, I can help take trays out of the oven." "Leo." Isabel tried to frown without dropping her salesperson's smile. "I want to help," Leo repeated with a stubborn frown. Isabel kept smiling. "It's nice of you, Leo, but you don't need to worry about business. You should be outside having fun." "Fine." Leo puffed out her chest. "Then I guess I'll just go see if Alma and Belen need anything." Just as she'd hoped, Isabel and Tia Paloma stopped, frozen. "Don't do that," Tia Paloma blurted, at the same time as Isabel said, "You can take trays out if you want." Leo nodded and stomped past her aunt and sister, ignoring the guilty twinge in her stomach. She marched through the swinging doors into the back of the bakery, and nobody stopped her. Perfect. Isabel and Tia Paloma had set up row after row of trays ready for baking in a line across the counter, and the timer on the oven showed that Leo had 10 more minutes before this batch of cookies was done. The preparation would make it simple for Isabel or Tia Paloma to switch trays in and out of the oven. They really didn't need Leo's help. They never did. Leo spun in a slow circle, inspecting the red-brown tile floor, the sunny yellow walls, and even the bumpy white ceiling for anything suspicious, anything that would explain what she had seen at the bakery yesterday or in the tent just now. She checked under the counters and inside all the drawers. She ran her hand over every inch of the big wooden table, looking for carvings or secret compartments. Her inspection turned up nothing but a few wads of gum that someone, Marisol, had stuck under various surfaces. She tried the walk-in next. It was too cold to spend much time in the refrigerated pantry, and Leah was always afraid of the heavy metal door slamming on her and trapping her inside. But she poked her head into the cold room and looked around for anything suspicious. Unless magic users needed egg cartons and jugs of milk, she saw nothing. What sorts of things would they need? What kind of magic was going on in that tent? Leo recalled Alma's white eyes, Belen's croaking voice. She had seen part of a movie about a possessed girl once, before Mama caught her and sent her off to bed. Well, were Alma and Belen possessed? Leo let the walk-in door creak shut and faced the kitchen again. This time, she turned to the big cabinets on either side of the room. She started with the left side, the one she had hidden in, and the ones that held the most common kitchen supplies. It didn't take her long to inspect the bags of flour, spatulas and whisks and spoons, wax paper, and jars of fruit filling. The cabinets on the right side of the room were used less frequently, but when Leo pulled open the door of the first cabinet, the contents of its shelves were disappointingly ordinary, though more cluttered than the other cabinets. Leo saw some of the less common baking supplies, like cloves for the Christmas specials and macadamia nuts. One shelf held extra office supplies, and one whole cabinet carried all the holiday decorations, minus the ones that were up around the bakery now. Leo's heart pounded when she found a bag of chocolate coins next to a bundle of dried plants she didn't recognize, and a collection of half-burned candles in all shapes and sizes. But those hardly counted as proof. What was she looking for, anyway? She'd spent hours watching Mama and Tia Paloma in the bakery mixing dough, shaping pastries, and arguing about prices and ways to attract new customers. She had chased Alma and Belen around every counter and corner and had found all the best places to hide when Marisol needed someone to fight with. If there were any dark passageways to underground caves or secret cauldrons full of bubbling potions, Leo would know about them already. But she had seen the candles, the knife, and the dough. Even now, staring at the burned candles and tinfoil coins, she felt it like the way you can feel a thunderstorm before it happens. Her family was keeping secrets, big ones, and there had to be proof of it somewhere. There was one place where Leo wasn't allowed to run, explore, or poke around. The office. Past the walk-in, the door to the bakery office was cracked open, an invitation Leo couldn't resist. The closet-like space was crowded with 2 desks, 2 mismatched filing cabinets, and an ancient computer that Mama never stopped complaining about. Shelves high out of Leo's reach held binders that were labeled by year and that strained to contain too many papers and receipts. Half hidden behind the door stood the shelf of cookbooks, magazines, and index cards with recipes for everything the bakery had ever made or ever imagined making. Leo checked all the drawers, flipped through the piles of stacked paper, and even pushed the rolling chairs aside to examine the space under each desk. She found a lot of boring numbers on a lot of boring papers, and she found pens, pencils, paper clips, and rubber bands. Not a single thing caught her eye until she knelt to read the titles of the cookbooks on the bottom shelf. One book leaned diagonally to fit the shelf, tall and thick with a cover of faded red leather. As soon as she saw it peeking out of its dark corner, Leo had to touch it. The spine was cracked and blank, and there was no title on the front cover, but Leo carefully pulled the book into her lap and opened to the first dusty page, where she read in what looked like handwritten cursive, Recetas de amor, azúcar y magia. Recipes. Leo made what her teacher would call an educated guess. Recipes of love, sugar, and magic. The back of her neck prickled. Leo pushed the office door closed with her back so that she was better hidden from the rest of the kitchen. The bakery was busy, and the timer on the ovens hadn't gone off yet. The prickling spread down to her fingers and toes. This was what she had been looking for. She turned the page. The first recipe in the book included an inky black and white drawing of round rolls topped with doughy X's to indicate crossed bones, the same rolls that Alma and Belen were selling in their tent. Pan de muerto mensajero, para hablar con los antepasados. Ingredients: 1/4 taza de azúcar, 1 cucharadita de levadura, 1/2 cucharadita de sal, 2 cucharaditas de semillas de anís, 1 cucharadita de canela, 2 cucharaditas de hueso en polvo, 3 tazas harina, 1/4 taza de leche, 1/4 taza de mantequilla, 1/4 taza de agua, 2 huevos, 1 cucharadita de ralladura de naranja, 2 gotas de tinta. Preparación. Combina los ingredientes secos en un tazón menos 1½ tazas de harina. Calienta la leche, la mantequilla y el agua en una cacerola y agrega las gotas de tinta cuando la mezcla está hirviendo. Pon la mezcla de leche en el tazón y agrega los huevos. Mezcla con 1/2 taza de harina y agrega más harina lentamente mientras recitas los nombres de tus seres queridos muertos, hasta que la masa se ponga suave y un poco pegajosa. Amasa por 10 minutos. Debe tener una consistencia suave y elástica. Déjala reposar en un tazón cubierto por 2 horas hace formas de huesos con la masa para poner encima del pan. Hornea durante de 45 minutos. Para hablar con los antepasados, Leo read aloud. To talk with someone. The recipe called mostly for the things she expected: flour, milk, butter, water, sugar, eggs, and salt, and she knew that bread of the dead usually included anise and cinnamon and orange flavoring. But Leo stared for a long time at the word hueso, which she thought meant bone. The next page had the title Tartas de la Verdad para obtener respuestas verdaderas. The picture showed a woman standing over another woman in a chair, leaning over her and pointing a finger as if she was demanding la verdad, the truth. Pastel para pelo showed tufts of hair sprouting from a bald head, while Azúcar de la Amistad showed two women hugging over cups of tea. Leo turned the page and found Pan de la Suerte, with instructions that included the words luna, chocolate, and oro. The words stood under a picture of a white rooster like the statue Mama had on her bedside table that was supposed to bring good luck. Leo leaned closer to the page, close enough to smell the dusty paper and the hint of that now familiar spicy scent. It was the smell of her family and their secrets, the smell of magic. "Leo, where did you go? Didn't you hear the timer beeping? Leo!" Leo wanted to move, to shove the book back onto the shelf or cover it with one of the other cookbooks, but she couldn't act fast enough. Isabel was already pushing open the office door. She found Leo sitting with the book in her lap, the drawers of the filing cabinets and desks still wide open. Leo looked at Isabel. Isabel looked at Leo. Although she felt frozen in place, Leo's mind flashed through several thoughts. Mama would be furious if she found out, which meant that Mama couldn't find out. And so, Leo needed Isabel on her side. Leo wasn't sure if she was faking or not, but it was easy to call tears to her eyes. "I'm sorry," she cried out before Isabel could do anything but stare, mouth open, at the recipe book. "I didn't mean to sneak around, but no one tells me anything. Please, Isabel, don't tell Mama. I just want to know what's going on." "Leo," Isabel sighed, her eyes turning as soft as melted chocolate chips. "Sweetie, put that away. You don't need to worry about it right now." "You have to tell me." Leo didn't bother to keep the whine out of her voice. "It's not fair." "I know, but if you just wait a couple of years." Leo sniffled, trying to keep her tears from spilling over onto her face paint. "Isabel," Marisol's voice droned from the front. "Where'd you go?" Isabel threw up her hands, pursed her mouth, and spun around. Her heels click-clacked as she walked to the front of the bakery. "I have a special customer on the phone. Will you be okay here for a few minutes?" "I didn't hear the phone," Marisol started, then her voice cut off. Isabel must be giving her best Mama glare. "Sure, whatever. We can manage." "Thank you." Isabel click-clacked back to the office, looked around, shut the door, and handed Leo half of a large sugar cookie. She started closing drawers and straightening the desks. "Okay, little Leo, I'm not promising anything, but if you want me to keep your secret, you have to tell me what you know so far." This is probably a good place to stop. That's the end of chapter 6, so we will pick up again on Monday. Check our Facebook page for updates on where and when we will be doing our story times, whether it will be on Facebook or on YouTube. But you should always be able to find links to the videos on the Facebook page after they're done, even if we do them live from YouTube. See y'all later.